And when ooh. Welcome to Writer's Life, the place you get the sight, sound, smells, taste of my particular writer's life, and where you get the truth about the writer's life. So subscribe, punch the like button, and tap that bell for notifications if you haven't already. And you get to see all these exciting videos. How exciting they are. By the way, the book I'm holding in that thumbnail, which I stupidly did not show the title. What is it actually? It's a short Chase Baker book. It's only 123 pages. Chase Baker and the Lincoln Curse, based on a true story, believe it or not. Not shilling my books here, but I thought it'd be interesting for you to know that the idea from that story came from my first wife, who lived in Loudonville, which is North Albany, kind of an affluent area, and she lived in a 200-year-old house that used to be occupied by Major Henry Rathbone and his wife Clara, his nutty wife Clara. Actually, they both went nuts eventually. But do you know who they are? They are the people, the couple who occupied the presidential booth. Of course, Booth is a big name in this story. Anyway, who occupied the presidential area, the balcony rather. I'm trying to say, when Lincoln was assassinated by Booth. Anyway, so everybody thinks it was President Grant and his wife, and it wasn't. Grant was originally invited, but he was drunk on whiskey somewhere, and I can't get there. Invite somebody else. So he invited Major Rathbone, and actually Major Rathbone, once Booth snuck in and shot the president, Rathbone ran to Booth, who then proceeded to stab Rathbone in the arm, all the way up. And that about did it for Rathbone. Because he opened him right up. He probably, in those days, he probably should have died from his wounds because he was bleeding all over too. Anyway, inside this house that my ex-wife lived in, they found Clara's bloody dress, and because Lincoln, his head fell onto her. So they say, that's the legend anyway. And so the house was supposed to be haunted anyway. And so I wrote a small book about Chase Baker investigating the finding of that dress and the house itself, and a lot of other stuff happens in the book. It's a fun book. It's one of those little ideas that someone gives you, and you're like, oh, this would be great for Chase Baker or whatever. Which leads me to a good friend of mine, if not my best friend around here, even though she's moved due to her resigning from her job. She told me about a house in her neighborhood that had a bunch of vultures perched on it. And so she spoke with a police detective friend of hers, and the guy said it's one or two things. Either there's a fairly decent sized dead animal in the attic, or there's dead people in the house. Now, I don't know exactly how that whole thing turned out, but I do believe there ended up being a murder or something like that, because other things went down too in that house, but I haven't heard much since. But anyway, I was like, oh, I got to wrap a story around this, and who better than Dick Moonlight? So just the other day, I think on Friday or Thursday, I started a story called Notorious Moonlight, which I think is going to turn into a novel, or at least a short novel, similar to the Chase Baker book. And certainly I use a Airbnb owner has a cottage in the back that she rents, and there's she suddenly finds out that there's 5 vultures perched on the roof, and she panics, and she's she senses that something's wrong, and so she calls in the APD and all this sort of stuff. And anyway, it leads to Dick Moonlight investigating this thing. But what a great concept, I think, for starting off a murder mystery. It was novel to me, news to me. Like I'd always thought of like vultures. I think up here we call them turkey vultures. But anyway, when I picture a vulture, I picture like an old like Clint Eastwood spaghetti western and some bad guy lying out in the desert, and the vultures circling around him in the heat because he's gonna die pretty quick. So anyway, I get ideas tossed at me all the time, right? And everybody knows how prolific I am and how much I'm writing. So everybody's trying to give me, they're like, I got an idea for you, man. And usually, yeah. And I appreciate it. I totally appreciate it. But usually the ideas kind of suck, but this was a good one. And so, like, I started it. This is after having finished a full Chase Baker book on Wednesday. I started it the very next day on Thursday. And I'm already almost 6,000 words into it. So, and that's besides writing a few articles and all sorts of stuff like that. So anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with it. So yes, every now and then I get good ideas from other people. And that's today's message. All right, I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Tomorrow, probably. Ciao, ciao.